Hello, everybody. This is a rather unique episode. I'm here with a few friends of mine. I'm here with Stormer,
Hello, folks.
Tatu, and Art.
Hi. Just call me Andrew.
And Andrew has quite an interesting story to tell.
I'm just gonna say right now, listener discretion is advised.
Ooh.
Warning,
Okay.
some of
Awkward.
this chapter is extremely scray. Viewer excretion advised.
Oh.
Now,
So, no, you go ahead.
So yeah, this is a story of a Jojo RP gone horribly wrong.
I wouldn't call it an RP. I mean, I would, but they wouldn't have.
Oh yeah?
Alright. You mind if I start?
Go ahead.
Alright. So, this went down about 2 years ago. Me and a few friends from high school had just gotten into, like, tabletop RPGs and stuff. And a couple of them wanted to start like a JoJo's campaign where like we made our own stands and did shit, and we were like, all right, sounds pretty cool.
What system we're using?
There's problem number one. They made up their own system, and I knew at the time that there was already like a JoJo's system out there, and pretty much none of it would have been relevant except for how the stats worked. And the other system had this great thing where it's like, if you're a C, it's like a normal roll. If it's a B, you roll advantage. Like in D&D, you roll 2 dice, take the higher. With A, it's like triple advantage, roll 3 dice, take the highest. And then the inverse for E and D.
Yeah.
None of that. A, like, B is the 0 mod, B is +1, A is +2, and then you got, like, pluses. Because that's how, like, fucked the system was. Like, as a guy who has now spent, like, 2 years playing actual 5e, modifiers don't mean shit.
Oh.
Especially when they're, like, +2. Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
for
there's problem number
context,
one.
I am not very familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. I played it once.
I am the DM of several campaigns.
Yeah, my internet's being a piece of shit right now.
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
more familiar with I know Pathfinder, Starfinder, World of Darkness, Scion,
Exalted.
yes, Exalted. So the fact that there
And this is fucking none of those. This is pure, painful homebrew.
yeah, and if I remember
and, like,
correctly, like everything was RNG.
Everything was a roll. Not only RNG, everything was a roll contest. AC was a foreign concept to us.
Man.
Yeah, nah, it was bad.
Oh my
So there's
God.
problem number one. Problem number two.
Now,
It was a
just,
2DM campaign. Two people were running this shit.
Were they co-DMing?
Yeah, kinda. Except we didn't know how any of that worked. And I still don't know how that would work because, well, back when I saw it, like, that sure didn't fucking work. Yeah, I don't care about my language. If I, like, explicitly avoided using bad words on this, it's like spray painting a turd white. It does nothing.
yeah, this video is definitely getting
Nah,
age restricted
like-
because
like,
I've heard the
This
story
ain't making
before.
you any money. Just
Even if I had enough subscribers to be able to monetize my videos, this
You
would
wouldn't be able to do this one.
restricted for. This is getting
Yeah.
age restricted for sure.
yeah. Oh man, it would be awful. Anyway, so problem number two, they were co-DMing, and they also had DMPCs.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
Like, we should have seen the fucking warning signs. But you know what? Like, hey, getting stands sounds pretty fun. So let's do it. So we had a pregame thing. And, like, the party for this was slightly different from the party we used in the campaign proper. But, the pregame, like, beta test, this was something we, like, did occasionally. We'd do, like, this was our version of what a session 0 would have been like. Instead of that, we did like a test session where it's like something completely different, and that's like the one consistency between all of the campaigns back at that, like back in high school, except for mine. Mostly because I forgot we did that. But anyway, the one for this one was us getting our stands, and I'll get into the stands themselves a bit later. But the inciting incident for like the fight in this session -1 was a school shooter situation.
Oh.
Where like
Wait, what?
Oh,
yeah, nah, like the whole thing was it was literally us. Like these weren't characters, this was us in our like hometown in upstate New York.
Oh.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
It's gonna be
Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Oh my
this
god.
Is, this is painfully wish fulfillment, but we kept on we kept going anyway for some
Wait,
fucking
were
reason.
you guys the shooters?
No.
But you're... Oh my, thank goodness
No,
for
okay,
that.
but it was like somebody we all knew. And so the twist was, he didn't have a stand. He was being possessed by another stand.
Okay, hang on, just for context, I may have mentioned this before, but Andrew has told me this story before. Well, most of it.
Mhm.
So I generally recall most of what's coming, but
Yeah,
there
some of it.
is some...
There's new
that-
content.
Yeah, stuff
There's
they
new
did tell me
content.
last
This
time.
might be it. This might be some of it. Anyway.
School shooting situation, I
So
did
we
not know
go
that.
out front. So we go out front to confront the guy with the stand. And his stand was basically just the Emperor with a superfluous body and apparently the ability to possess people. I don't know. In any case, we fucking body him. And then the DM uses his stand to find out, like, oh, so that's why my stand wasn't working on him most of that time. He's from another dimension. And it never gets brought up again.
What?
A big lipped alligator
Ever.
moment.
Well, I mean, I guess. But anyway, yeah, add that to the list of, like, you know, stand users who could possess people that
Right.
part or some other part was completely fucking forgotten about.
Guys.
Yes?
Guys, I gotta go.
Right.
Alright.
I think now's as good a time as any to talk about the stand makeup. I'm probably gonna have to come up with like I'm gonna mention the 2 DMs a lot in this one, not so much like the other players. So I'm gonna give them like, you know, nicknames. I'm gonna call DM1 Rubber, because this guy has no fucking temperance, and the other one Alessi, because I don't like him. Yeah, I kind of just don't like him, and you'll see why. So let's get into the stands. I'm quite proud of my stand. I made a stand called Voyager, where his whole shtick was marking objects that I could teleport to. Like, and like I could mark up to 10, like based off of the sun and the 9 planets. You know, it's cool stuff.
Like, was it based on the Daft Punk song Voyager?
Yeah, it was.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Daft Punk is awesome.
Yeah. Anyway. We had another stand called Threshold, which was an electricity-based stand, which was originally got more powerful the more its user got damaged, but then he retconned it so that it was like the longer it was out, the stronger it got.
So
A change from the original. So basically what?
Red Hot Chili Pepper, but...
He couldn't
just
do the
keeps
same stuff.
getting
It was
stronger.
basically a punch ghost.
Oh yeah?
Couldn't do a lot of the same stuff. It could not do a lot of the same stuff. It's just a punch ghost and it's electricity based. And for all of you like keen listeners out there, yes, it was a reference to that song that was actually made by Scott Pilgrim's band. One of the songs anyway. Now here's where like part of the party changes. It was originally this guy whose stand was basically just a dragon. It was literally just a dragon.
Oh my.
Like, it wasn't that big. Wasn't much bigger than him, I don't think.
I mean...
But he was just like a lazy asshole.
You know, the
And,
sad
like-
part? I am totally the type who would make a freaking dragon stand.
Well, like, you know what?
Name
I
it
don't-
Through the Fire and the Flames.
Oh my god. Well, like, I imagine you being actually useful because he decided, like, and I might tell other stories about this guy later, but for right now, he's just, like, an asshole. Like, he wanted to be the Iggy of the group, who was, like, aloof in the beginning. Like, he likes character acting, and we hated when he did that. And eventually he sort of fell out of the group, fortunately, but we needed a new stand user, so we just gave another guy, who I'm now still, like, quite good friends with. We gave him Iron Maiden, which is basically Metallica. Also, anybody who doesn't watch Jojo's is really pissed off. Like, why would I say that? That doesn't make any fucking sense unless I'm, like, a poser.
Yeah.
Nah, like,
Metallica
was a stand-in JoJo's that had control over metal. This was the same deal.
Yeah, though, I have a stand that I made up called The Rite of Spring that kind of has a similar deal as Metallica in the whole blood manipulation thing, but
blood bending.
Yeah, pretty much. It's incredibly versatile. Basically, it allows my character Joanna Joestar to manipulate her own blood to attack.
Oh, you've told me this before. You told me this last time.
Yeah, I told you about it.
Yeah, I remember this now.
You really liked it.
Anyway, DMPC stands. Rubber Stand was called The Day after the first intro to My Hero Academia, and its original ability. Hold on.
This will be the day.
Dre, you are singing it badly. Please stop. Hurting my ears.
Okay.
Anyway, its original ability, hold on to that thought, original ability, was basically whatever information he needed to know, it wrote down on a nearby sheet of paper. And, like, the whole thing was, like, it activated during a test. Which, fuck you, Rubber.
That's just hacks.
That's just hacks, yeah. No, it'll get worse. Trust me, it'll get worse. I didn't take much issue with Alessi's stand. Alessi didn't actually do a lot, but when he did do stuff, it was fucking awful. His stand was called Vermilion. I think it's after some kind of, like, metal song or something like that, and it was basically... Yeah, it was basically a lot like... It functioned a lot like Hierophant Green, but its big deal was control over carbon dioxide, which, you know, pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I liked him doing was him just, when he attacked, he would say, "Carbonize the crash." Yeah, like he'd crystallize the carbon dioxide in the air into dry ice and then fire it at people like Hierophant Green would.
Oh, man. I mean, hey, it's a good move, but, like...
Yeah. It gives him a ranged attack. That's about it. And, like, you know, he could do other creative stuff with it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get into the story proper.
Alright.
So, we start off at one of our local convenience stores. And suddenly we start hallucinating shit, and that's because of a drug addict's stand. So he was fucking fun.
Whose stand is drugs.
Yeah, basically. Like, it was intense. It was intense, like... debuff shit. It was intense debuff shit, which, you know, great for a first fight. Anyway, a guy sees us fight him off and is like, hey, come back to my house. And it's like this old man, which is like, ah, great. And this is something else I'm gonna say about the story. It's episodic and railroaded.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so, like... I'm just going to say this now. At no point did we ever feel like we were actually the master of our own fates. It was just...
Deltarune, your choices
basically,
don't matter.
What are Rubber and Alessi going to come up with this week? That was basically it.
And it was horrible.
It
What
was,
they came
like,
up with.
some of it was okay. I'm going to talk about a lot of the stuff that didn't land.
Oh, God.
Like, you know, there were high points, but, like, a lot of this overshadows it for me personally. Anyway, so he takes us back to his house, tells us his name's Delgado, living with his son and his dog. His dog's name is Woods, and he's got a stand called Fortunate Son. Unfortunately for his son, somebody comes on over to kill Delgado and kills his son. Yeah. So Delgado's kid is dead, and by the way, like, pay close attention to this. It's gonna become something of a theme. Like, why does Delgado's kid have to die? But now we're on an adventure, and like, for some reason, they felt the need, because we were all still in high school, and like the oldest of us were like 16 at the time, decided we each needed our own excuse to get away from our parents. Like, hey, tell them it's a field trip. This is gonna play into something. This is gonna play into something near the end.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so we start making our way up, and we head up to like this little like back of the woods town in the middle of the Adirondacks, and like stay at a hotel for a night. And for some reason, the woman at the desk of the hotel wants to bang the shit out of me. Which I'm a smart person. At this point I had sort of like fallen out of the thing we had all done because of that one other guy, which was like, hey, like we should like seduce people in these games. At this point I'd like fallen out of that because I was fucking done with it.
I mean, I'm fine with lewdness, but
I mean, here's the thing. In previous campaigns it was just a single roll. Roll to seduce. That was the thing that happened in previous campaigns, and I got done with it at that point. Also, I was smart because, like, I had no intention of seducing her. She came right to me, which meant, great, something bad is going to happen to me.
oh man.
Eventually, I get forced into a situation I don't want, and I'm in bed with this chick, and it's happening.
Oh.
And then she starts growing.
Oh.
She starts,
man.
like, almost inflating, but she's getting much heavier. So I like use my stand to get out of there, and in retrospect, that's probably why he chose me specifically, because I actually had an out.
Okay.
And so we fight. And so we fight this giant whale of a person, which eclipses the hotel, the like tiny hotel motel, whatever we were staying in.
It's like, yeah. A
Also,
common theme in this is going to be, I think these people have a fetish.
Yeah, that's like, and the sub-theme, what can we make Andrew fuck?
Jesus Christ.
Like, nah, you've not, Storm,
It
you
gets
haven't even heard the worst of it.
so much worse, Storm. You are not prepared.
I like to think I am. My body is Reggie.
Your body is not Reggie, I promise you that.
Nah, it's fine. Anyway, so, well, like, one of the shticks of the whole campaign was, oh, it's us traveling around New York State doing this stuff. And part of it was, oh, we're going to these locations we know. So we head up north from our place around late in the middle of the Adirondacks. We head up north to Allentown, which is a town like they like to make fun of because like it's kind of hillbilly territory around here. Here was one of the problems. We were heading north to Allentown. Allentown was quite far south of where we were, like in real life. But I don't think they cared. We were heading up to Clinton County.
So they messed up the geography?
Yeah, they messed up their own geography.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, this is awful. Anyway, so we get to Allentown.
Don't do that.
And the whole deal is fucking incest vampire hillbillies.
Sorry about that.
So basically, wrong turn, but with Jojo.
No, this was where we were going. This was where we intended to go.
No, Wrong Turn is a movie series.
Okay. I didn't know that. Anyway,
so
it's like basically hillbilly vampire incest town. Anyway, so we get there, and you know, got all this vampire shit around us. Enter the main antagonist, Patavona. Now, Patavona is the most creative villain I have ever heard.
Yep.
He's a blonde vampire man who appears to be able to teleport around places.
You thought it was a clever and original villain, but it was me! Deal!
Yeah. I'm gonna give you 3 guesses as to where they got the name Patavona, and the first 2 don't count.
Well, I already know.
You already know.
You told me, so I'm not
Silver,
gonna
where
guess.
do you think it comes from?
I have no idea.
It's Ronnie James Dio's real last name.
That's
where they got Patavona from.
What you just heard is me facepalming so hard that I hit the back of my chair.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's there for a bit. He's like, I can't believe you guys are my fucking family. I'm gonna fuck off for now. Deal with these little shits. And then he fucks off, and we fight the vampires. Sometime in the middle of the fight, Rubber gets bitten or something and turns into a vampire themselves and turns on us and gets a bunch of bonuses and shit. And their stand turns into like a punch ghost version of itself. It's also got a ring. He's also got a ring. That'll be a bit important later. So we like have a difficult time fighting him, have like arguments over like roll contests and what happens if a natural 20 meets a natural 20 in one of these things. We basically tried to kick the vampire out of him, and it eventually worked.
How does that even work? You can't just kick the vampirism out of someone.
Look, it's not the dumbest thing that happened, alright?